Good morning. This is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church, Detroit, and we're continuing our series of daily morning meditations where we generally look at one or another of the lessons that are assigned for morning or evening prayer, what is known as the Daily Office Lectionary. And today I thought we'd take a look at the gospel lesson that's assigned from St. Mark's Gospel, the 8th chapter, beginning at the 11th verse. The Pharisees came forth and began to question with him, seeking of him a sign from heaven, tempting him. And he sighed deeply in his spirit and saith, Why doth this generation seek after a sign? Verily I say unto you, there shall no sign be given unto this generation. And he left them, and entering to the ship again, departed to the other side. Now the disciples had forgotten to take bread, neither had they in the ship with them more than one loaf. And he charged them, saying, Take heed, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, and of the leaven of Herod. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, It's because we have no bread. And when Jesus knew it, he saith unto them, Why reason ye because ye have no bread? Perceive ye not yet, neither understand? Have ye your hearts yet hardened? Having eyes see ye not, and having ears hear ye not, and do ye not remember? When I brake the 5 loaves among 5,000, how many baskets full of fragments took ye up? And they say unto him, 12. Then when the 7 among 4,000, how many baskets full of fragments took ye up? And they said, 7. And he said unto them, How is it that ye do not understand? And he cometh to Bethsaida, and they brought a blind man unto him, and besought him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand, and led him out of the town. And when he had spit in his eyes, and put his hands upon him, he asked him if he saw aught. And he looked up, and said, I see men as trees walking. After that he put his hands again upon his eyes, and made him look up, and he was restored, and saw every man clearly. And he sent him away to his house, saying, Neither go into the town, nor tell it to any in the town. Okay, so first let's deal with the first part, obviously, and that is this idea of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. The disciples get it wrong. They're thinking on worldly terms, right? They're thinking about bread, right? They're thinking about, oh my gosh, we just left and we've only got 1 loaf of bread. We've got all of us here in the boat and the whole crew's here, the whole squad, and we only have 1 loaf of bread. And Jesus is like, so that they think Jesus is talking about the physical bread. And he's like, man, you guys, you're a little dense today. You're not getting it. You're not thinking. You've seen it. You've heard it. Don't you remember? And then he gives them the reminder, I can take and feed thousands of people with a couple of loaves of bread. Don't worry about the things of this world. When he talks about the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod, he's talking about their teaching, right? Which is all about the externals and not about the change of heart that really brings people close to God and helps them to understand how to grow in that new life with God. So he said, you guys got to get on board. Think clearly about this. This is not about whether or not you're providing for the earthly things. God will provide for you, right? Don't be anxious over what you will eat or what you will drink or what you shall put on, right? Jesus tells us that elsewhere in the gospel. But worry about bad teaching. Worry about finding out the truth of God in Jesus Christ. Find out about how it is we're supposed to really live and put into effect this gospel, this good news of God's saving redemption. But then, of course, we also have this healing story. And I always find this one an interesting one because it's an incremental healing, right? Some healing stories, guy comes, Jesus says something, and they go back and the person's healed at that very same hour. Other times, Jesus offers a go, right, with the centurion, and the centurion says, look, I'm man under authority. You just say go, and, you just say it, and they'll do it. And that happens. Others, we hear him just literally talking to them and telling them, I will be healed. But in this case, there's seemingly an incremental healing, right? He spits and he puts on his eyes for the first time and he can see kind of, and then he does it again and he can see fully. And so I don't know if this is perhaps for us to think about. Sometimes healing comes in those increments, right? Not all of us will receive that full-on instantaneous healing that does some occasionally come in the healing ministry, but that Jesus is always willing the best for us. And sometimes it won't come all at once, and other times it will. I love this idea. I see men, but they look like they're trees. Anyway, that's one of those things that always jumps out at me at the gospel. So today's Tuesday, so we're going to have Holy Communion at 12:15, God willing, and then 4 o'clock evening prayer. And I do hope that you can join us here at St. John's in person, or here online where you're watching this meditation. May God give you a Tuesday that is full of blessings.